These tornadoes are just two examples debunking the myth that tornadoes don't strike the heart of larger cities. Waco, deadliest tornado on record in Texas, 114 deaths. At the time, Wichita Falls tornado, costliest in U.S., $400 million in 1979. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 27.3. The Waco tornado carved a path up to 1/3 mile wide through the heart of the city's downtown, reaching F5 intensity the day after Mother's Day, 1953. Over 600 businesses, 850 homes and 2,000 cars were either destroyed or damaged. Some survivors had to wait up to 14 hours to be rescued from the rubble. The Wichita Falls tornado of April 10, 1979 was one of 13 tornadoes which rampaged across parts of North Texas and Oklahoma that terrible Tuesday. This over 1 mile wide beast carved through the heart of the city of roughly 100,000. Almost 3,100 homes were destroyed. Despite the issuance of severe warnings, coverage by local television stations, and multiple soundings of sirens, 42 were killed, many of which tried to flee in their vehicles. Second deadliest U.S. tornado, 317 killed, only 26 states in the U.S. in 1840. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 27.3. First consider what wasn't in place in 1840. Electricity wouldn't be invented for another 39 years. No television, radio, internet, or sirens, either. Then, picture Natchez as a bustling river port city, with flatboats galore. Now, picture a massive wedge tornado, most likely of F5 intensity, bearing down on the city. The tornado first touched down about 20 miles southwest of Natchez, then hugged the river, hit Natchez Landing, then came ashore tearing through the city itself. Of the 317 official deaths, reliable reports suggest 269 of those perished as flatboats were sunk. This death toll may be forever underestimated, as fatalities from slaves were not counted in that era. Reportedly a fragment of a steamboat's window was carried 30 miles away. One of $2 billion tornadoes from the April 27, 2011 superoutbreak took aim on the town of Hackleburg, Alabama, population, 1,430. Total damage estimate, $1.25 billion. Estimated maximum wind, 210 miles per hour, EF5, total path length, 132 miles. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 27.5. This tornado, packing peak winds over 200 miles per hour, tossed vehicles 150 to 200 yards and leveled a well-built four-sided brick home, tossing its debris 40 yards downwind, according to the official damage survey from the National Weather Service in Birmingham, Alabama. On its 132-mile rampage from Marion County, Alabama to Franklin County, Tennessee, 72 were killed, and 145 were injured. This would have easily been the costliest tornado in Alabama history, if it wasn't for another tornado about 80 miles to the south that same day. More on that later. Deadly, destructive tornadoes are not simply confined to the Midwest and South. Our number 7 tornado was, arguably, the worst tornado of record in New England. Total damage estimate corrected for inflation, $1.36 billion, 2011 94 killed, 1288 injured. Path length, 46 miles over 84 minutes. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 31.0. Just one day after 115 were killed in a Flint, Michigan, F5 tornado, the same weather system spawned this deadly tornado which raked through the north side of the city of Worcester, among other locations in Massachusetts. Assumption Colleges, now Quinsigamond Community College, Signature Tower lost 3 stories. 2- and 3-story tenements were leveled, particularly in the upper Burcoat area of town. In all, 4,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed. 6 of the 8 Massachusetts towns impacted reported death or damage. Some debris was swept miles away, including a frozen mattress found near Weymouth in Massachusetts Bay, as well as books and clothing found at both Blue Hill and on Outer Cape Cod. Amazingly, there was another instance of single tornadoes claiming over 100 lives occurring on back-to-back days. 203 killed, 1,600 injured, largest tornado death toll in one building in U.S. history. Cooper Pants Factory, total damage estimate corrected for inflation, $1.325 billion, $2011. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 38.3. As if the Dust Bowl and Great Depression weren't enough to worry about, a two-day southern tornado outbreak culminated in a destructive tornado event in Gainesville, northeast of Atlanta on April 6, 1936. We say event since there were actually two tornadoes, one coming from the west, the other from the southwest, which merged over the city that awful April morning, leaving a 4-block-wide path of destruction. Buildings collapsed as the central business district was almost entirely leveled, including the county courthouse. The collapse and fire of the Cooper Pants factory killed dozens. 40 people were never found, and are officially deemed as missing. This disaster occurred just one day after the Tupelo, Mississippi, tornado claimed 216 lives. The total death toll from the April 5 to 6, 1936 two-day tornado outbreak was 454. The gateway to the west has an infamous tornadic history. 72 fatalities, 550 injured, total damage estimate corrected for inflation, $2.077 billion, $2011. Over 200 city blocks torn apart. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 42.8. The September 29, 1927 tornado carved a 12-mile-long swath of destruction through the heart of St. Louis. A story written by the Associated Press, AP, the day after described it as 4 terrible minutes of a ripping and roaring tornado. According to the National Weather Service, some non-residential buildings were completely blown away while a few multi-story dwellings were destroyed and partly swept away. The same AP story cited above mentioned some of the city's finest homes along Lindo Boulevard were laid waste. If it wasn't for 2011, this 1927 St. Louis tornado, when adjusted for inflation, would rank as the nation's second costliest tornado. Arguably the most destructive single tornado of a record-setting day during which 200 tornadoes spun across the southeast was a massive tornado which churned through Tuscaloosa, Alabama, on April 27, 2011. 65 fatalities, 1,500 injured, total damage estimate, $2.2 billion. Tornado path length, 80.68 miles. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 43.9. Among the numerous buildings destroyed by the EF4 tornado were the Tuscaloosa County Emergency Operations Center and Alberta Elementary School. According to the National Weather Service damage survey, one home on a foundation was swept clean, with only floor joists remaining attached to the foundation. The tornado also produced EF4 damage in the Concord and Pleasant Grove communities west of Birmingham, Alabama. Some cinder block homes were completely swept away, leaving only vacant slabs. Incredibly, tornado warnings were posted for this single supercell in central Alabama for over 4 hours. In fact, the parent supercell was tracked for over 7 hours from its formation in Newton County, Mississippi, to its final demise in Macon County, North Carolina, a distance of around 380 miles. Just when we all thought the spring of 2011 couldn't be more violent, one single, mammoth tornado left Joplin, Missouri, staggered. 161 fatalities, deadliest single U.S. tornado since 1947, total damage estimate, $2.8 billion. 7,500 residential dwellings damaged, affecting more than 17,000 people. Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 61.4 mile wide, EF5 tornado with peak winds over 200 miles per hour. Tore a 6-mile-long gash through the heart of the city of about 50,000 the afternoon of May 22, 2011. The sheer scope of the damage was beyond belief. Neighborhoods were left unrecognizable, including the destruction at St. John's Mercy Hospital and Joplin High School. The tornado generated roughly 4.1 million cubic yards of residential and commercial debris. In addition to the residential dwellings mentioned above in Fast Facts, more than 500 businesses were affected, impacting between 4,500 and 5,000 employees. Over 15,000 vehicles including buses, vans, and semis were tossed up to several blocks away, either crushed, rolled into balls, or wrapped around trees beyond recognition. Some owners never found their vehicles. Even when correcting past U.S. tornadoes for inflation, the Joplin tornado became the costliest single tornado in U.S. history, $2.8 billion. What tornado could possibly be worse than what Joplin endured in 2011? Yes, another St. Louis tornado made our top 10 worst tornado list. 255 fatalities, at least 1,000 injured, total damage estimate corrected for inflation, $2.56 billion, $2011, generated F4 damage Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 64.0. This massive tornado moved from Tower Grove Park into downtown St. Louis, then crossed the Mississippi River and carved through East St. Louis, on May 27, 1896. Prior to the Joplin tornado, in 2011, when adjusting for inflation, this late 19th century tornado qualified as the costliest in U.S. history. Over 8,800 buildings were either damaged or destroyed. The Eads Bridge lost about 300 feet of its eastern approach, but otherwise survived. After an 1871 tornado damaged its superstructure on its eastern abutment, the bridge was rebuilt to be tornado-proof. The 255 official fatalities make this the third deadliest single tornado in U.S. history, behind only the Natchez, Mississippi, 1840 tornado and our number one worst U.S. tornado. Incidentally, the nation's costliest thunderstorm also occurred in St. Louis. On April 10, 2001, a supercell thunderstorm unleashed a hailstorm in the city, with up to 3 inches diameter hail, larger than baseballs. Insured losses alone were $2.3 billion, including at least 40,000 auto insurance claims and tens of thousands of property insurance claims. Vehicles were damaged at a Ford Motor plant, and both commercial and military aircraft were damaged at airports. Given the more recent devastation we've witnessed in Joplin, Missouri, and Tuscaloosa, Alabama, it's hard to fathom anything worse. Deadliest U.S. tornado, 695 fatalities, 2,027 injuries. Path length, 219 miles, but new research suggests it was at least 174 miles. Total damage estimate corrected for inflation, $1.46 billion, $2011, Forbes Index, 100-point scale, 76.1. That said, according to our statistics, the infamous tri-state tornado of 1925 takes the top spot by a wide margin. First, the death toll was double that of the next deadliest U.S. tornado, Natchez, Mississippi, in 1840. Of the 695 total fatalities, 234 of those were in the town of Murfreesboro, Illinois, the single greatest tornado death toll in any U.S. city. Tragically, 33 other deaths occurred at a school in DeSoto, Illinois. There were at least 9 total tornadoes on this March day, claiming a total of 747 lives in 7 states: Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. Then, there's the incredible path. Due to data quality issues in the 1920s, it hardly seems possible a tornado could churn over a 219-mile-long path. An exhaustive 2013 reanalysis by retired National Severe Storms Laboratory researchers such as Bob Maddox, Chuck Doswell, and Don Burgess, as well as retired and current Storm Prediction Center and National Weather Service meteorologists, concluded the tornado path was likely continuous for at least 174 miles, from Madison County, Missouri to Pike County, Indiana. The culprit appears to have been a single classic, then high precipitation long-track supercell, possibly near a warm front/dry line intersection, according to the study. Remaining in a favorable environment, the tri-state tornado continued for over 3 hours, with an average width of 0.75 mile, and an average forward speed of 59 miles per hour. The main tornado contained multiple vortices, at times, and appeared to have had at least 2 satellite tornadoes in Illinois, says severe weather expert, Dr. Greg Forbes. In an era without television, watches or warnings, news traveled by word of mouth or from the local newspaper, an especially frightening thought given the speed of movement of this tornado. At least 19 separate communities were affected. Gorham, Illinois, and Griffin, Indiana, were totally destroyed. 90% of Annapolis, Missouri, and Parrish, Illinois, were destroyed. Parrish was never rebuilt, becoming, in essence, a tornadic ghost town. An estimated 15,000 homes were demolished.